Hi, I'm Kaya.
And I'm Joanna.
And this is Starlit Citadel Reviews.
Mod X is an abstract game with a classic feel from Mark and Joan Wilkinson and Cryptozoic.
In Mod X, players race to score points by creating patterns on the board and poaching scored spaces from their opponents. It's playable by 2 to 4 players in about half an hour.
Players begin Mod X by taking a set of X pieces and score markers in their color. One player lays out 5 clear joker pieces. These can be placed anywhere so long as they are not adjacent to each other. Then the game begins.
On their turn, a player places one of their X pieces on an empty space of the board. Then it's the next player's turn.
If a player's X piece completes a pattern of 5 pieces in a plus, line, or X shape, they score points. The pattern may be made up of pieces of their color plus clear joker pieces.
To score a pattern, a player replaces the X pieces of their color with their own scoring markers. Jokers are not scored and are moved to any open space on the board that doesn't complete another pattern.
Players can place their X pieces on top of scoring markers, and scoring markers can be placed on top of already existing ones.
If a player completes a pattern and neglects to score it on their turn, the next player can point it out on their turn and score its points instead. It's also possible to score multiple patterns at once if a single X piece completes them both. Players take turn placing pieces and scoring their shapes until one player reaches either 10, 12, or 15 points, depending on the number of players. That player wins.
The game ends immediately if one player runs out of X's or scoring markers, and the player with the highest score wins. The game also ends if one player manages to make a pattern out of only joker pieces, and if that's the case, then that player wins instantly.
So I think Mod X would make a really great pub game. It's super easy to learn and explain even in a noisy environment or even to people who maybe aren't paying quite as much attention as they should. It's very quick to play, and it's also simple and social enough that you can, have a conversation or catch up with your friends while you're still playing an interesting and engaging game. It's also totally waterproof. I'm pretty sure you could spill a beer on the board and then run it through the dishwasher and it would come out just fine, which is nice both for people who want to play it in a pub or in a more social environment and people with children who maybe have to worry about more delicate games getting damaged if they get played with the whole family. I think the other reason I automatically think of Mod X as a pub game is it reminds me of the kind of old school abstract games that often end up in bars and pubs, or the kinds of things that I used to find in my parents' friends' closets and I'd play during family visits. It's got a very nostalgic feel to it. The designers understand how kids used to play games like that. They do things like giving you some extra pieces and encouraging you to make up your own variants, which is something that I definitely remember doing growing up. And it really plays into a lot of people's nostalgia for the games of their childhood while still incorporating some neat modern design sensibilities. My favorite example of that is the shapes that you can build, the X and the plus and the line. They don't play very well with the edges of the board. You can't just retreat off into a corner and build your own kingdom there. You get forced into the center, which is where you're competing for real estate with other players. It's a subtle little design trick that does feel very modern and that forces the kind of direct conflict that is much more popular in modern games. Now, the one thing that I have to say against Mod X is that the visual design is super unfriendly to everybody. I talk a lot about accessibility to colorblind players because it's such an easy thing to do and it matters so much, and Mod X fails catastrophically on that front. You've got 4 player colors and they are black, red, orange, and yellow. I've played this game with players who are not colorblind, who have no visual impairments of any kind, and who still couldn't tell pieces apart when they were actually looking at stuff on the board. It's just, aesthetics completely aside, it's very, very poor visual choice, just in terms of clarity and making it easy for people to play the game, and that's really unfortunate.
So now if we are going to talk about the aesthetic of this game, they were definitely going for nostalgia here. They were definitely going for that sort of classic abstract game feel. It's got sort of 70s color scheme. The rule book feels like it's dated for sure. And they were definitely, they achieved what they set out to achieve with that. And I'm not sure it was the best choice, to be honest, because even though they did achieve what they set out to achieve, it is ugly. This is an ugly game. So there are going to be plenty of people who bring the game out and just are turned off by the visual design. It definitely harkens back to an older time. It definitely looks clunky and dated. So it was a very strong choice that they made, and some people might not like it. That being said, this game has a lot of strengths to it. So if you do have a really positive feeling of nostalgia for those old classic traditional abstract games, you're gonna love this game. And it plays with more than 2 players, which is fantastic. Usually abstract games are definitely at their strongest with 2 players. Now this plays just as well with 3 or 4. So you can bring a larger group than you normally could with an abstract game. Also, there's some interest added here in the strategy. So this does seem like a simple game, and it is. It's quite easy to learn. But there's some nice strategy that's added here with the stealing of the scoring markers. So this isn't a game where you sort of rack up the points, and then if you get to a certain level, then you win. Your number of points are going to change over the course of the game. You're going to have to do things like try to defend your own scoring markers on the board, and your strategy as another player can be to come in and steal points from someone else who's winning, so it adds an extra level of strategy to this game. So I think that if you like abstract games, if you're a fan of sort of old school traditional games, you should definitely give this a try. I think it's been updated really nicely, sort of using the smarts that have come out of sort of modern game design and applying it to sort of old school games. So I think you'd really like it. And also if you want to take some of those old games and play them with a larger group.
Go for it. Connect 4, 5. Sorry.